like my family is like right behind. They can see like my screen. They can see me in real time.
Okay, forward, okay?
I slowed him, I slowed him.
Yeah, nice. Very good, guys. Very good. Keep going.
One answer after, okay? You can kill.
Oh!
Let's go, Nas. Good job. Venga.
Oh, misfortune, but Yike gets the reset. Super running, sprinting, strutting his stuff in the midst of the fight. But now Yike instantly popped. Supa taking over Elyoya and delivering the quadra. Supa is just too damn good.
G2 thought they would not get surprised again, and MDK said, we'll see about that, and open up the score here 1-0 in this best of 5. Guys, I feel like all the expectations coming into today got like thrown out the window here in game 1, especially coming with the draft on both sides. A lot of surprises. I love the diversity in the jungle, especially on the side of G2 Broxah.
Well, I think ultimately G2 came in with a pretty unexpected draft. We saw Gwen, we saw Yasuo, but it was just a very tough moment for them to lock it in because there was so much lockdown on the other side. We saw Alistar, we saw the Maokai, and it was very, very difficult for these champions to do their thing and kite.
Yeah, and I think one of the major things we saw in this draft was G2's willingness to give over the MF, right? Get the Ashe first, they went through the second pick and ban as well, still leaving that misfortune open. And I think they kind of expected Supa not to play as well as he did on it, right? His positioning was exceptional in these fights. When I look at the draft, I think perhaps a little bit too much time in the kitchen from G2. The Gwen is a strong AP jungler, but as Broxah said, if you have lockdown on her, it's so hard for her to actually do anything in these battles.
So when you look at the draft on both sides, what is the expectation when it comes to the early stages of the game? How do you want things to go if you're G2?
Well, I think G2 wants to play pretty fast in fights. They want to split everybody up because if it's straight up 5v5 like we saw time and time again, you just cannot beat MDK's comp. Now, of course, we saw MDK on the red side, their comfort zone. They got a lot of good responses to everything that G2 threw at them. Presumably, G2 will go red side and be the one, you know, on the other side, surprising the opposition, which could change things a lot going into game 2.
I totally agree, and I think that the idea of playing 5v5s through multiple different skirmishes definitely rings true for G2's comp. The issue is, how do you do that into Mad Lion Koi's comp, right? You've got the Maokai for disengage, you've got the Alistar, you've got the Ken, and you have all of these tools, and you can see here, G2 find a couple of these picks. Alvaro down to half HP at the start, but Yike is just demolished because as soon as he's crowd controlled, all of MDK can dive in.
And time again, we see G2 going for these really aggressive plays, but the peel from the likes of Kennen, the Alistar, the Maokai is just too much. And Supa did a really good job always being on point with the positioning in the specific fight. We saw a great misfortune ult, but ultimately, for G2, they kept diving, trying to reach him, and they just never managed to get it done.
I mean, that's the thing. We kept on seeing G2 engage, pushing for these fights, but it was always Mad Lions getting the better end of it. And I'm just saying, was it G2 over-forcing maybe in these fights? Or actually, as you said, Mikyx, hard to counter the potential of combo you had on the MDK's composition?
I think MDK's composition is relatively cookie cutter for what teams want to do at the moment, right? You have an AD carry who can stand back, you've got good CC frontline, you've got a bit of disengage if you need it, and then you have the follow-up with things like the Kennen. G2, this composition reminded me a lot of what they did against MDK a couple of weeks ago, which was, oh, if we dive the AD carry, then we can win the fight. This has less obvious dive. It doesn't have something like the Vi or the Kai'Sa to follow up, but they're still trying to run through MDK to get an AD carry, and Supa was just always in the right position to stop them from doing that.
I think in short, G2 just went high risk, high reward, and this time around MDK were well prepared, and they certainly were not rewarded for the risk they took.
And MDK came in with the right preparation, I feel, because I looked at the confidence on the side of G2, they were like, they caught us off guard once, they're never gonna do it again, and again, MDK keeps on innovating, and I want to send mass congratulations to this guy, and props to this guy, because Supa came at the beginning of the year, he always had the confidence, but it was time for him to show it.
Yeah, it was a very difficult year for him with how much confidence he had. As a rookie coming into the year, when you say something like, I'm better than Death, you have to expect to be able to back that up. And he hasn't proved that point yet, but he's definitely proved that he can battle with the best AD carries here in Europe.
Well, we barely even spoke about him going into the series. It was all highlighting Hansama as Supa having this performance and creating a huge AD carry gap in game 1. Definitely was very impressive. When we see it in this fight, this is something he's so good at. In season finals, just kiting really far back, making it so difficult for G2 to ever reach him. And this is the difference between a good AD carry and a great one. A great AD carry will always be alive till the very end of this fight.
not only spacing, he's spacing on MF, one of the most immobile AD carries that you know, and we know that Supa is able to play pretty much anything, and if he's showing up this kind of confidence in game 1 on a pick like MF, I'm really looking forward to seeing what he can show next.
Yeah, definitely the key performer for MDK. I do want to give credit to the rest of the team as well. Like Alvaro's disengage was superb. You saw Elyoya and the Maokai always being in the right position, and even Myrwn's flanking. Like one time he got caught out trying to run up behind the Dragon Pit by the Ashe and by the Renekton, but after that, even in that final fight, we actually saw him coming all the way behind next to the tier 2 as G2 were overextending. It's that intelligence in late game situations that MDK showed in this series, or in this one game so far, and that's all we have to judge it from, that really exemplifies how they've grown over the last few weeks. Because in the past, they wouldn't have done their due diligence. They wouldn't have made the map dark for G2. Instead, they would have given G2 those opportunities to get back in the game.
And we'll see what G2 can do next in the second game. But before that, their opponents are waiting for them. They're waiting to see who they're going to face off against tomorrow, and Sjokz is standing by with Humanoid and Noah. Let's check out what they have to say.
Thank you very much. Indeed, I am. I saw them, watching the games. Humanoid, servus.
I can't hear anything.
You can't hear anything? It's fine. Okay, let's see if you can hear this. What did you think of this first game?
Oh, I think both teams look really bad. Honestly, I wasn't impressed, and I think tomorrow is going to be a free win.
Whoa, okay. Noah, what did you think of the first game?
I think Mikyx is lying, and I think Supa was very good, so I think he's going to carry this one.
Supa is going to carry the whole thing?
Yeah.
I got to ask, how's your support doing? Is he okay? Is June okay? Is he ready for tomorrow?
I mean, I think he's fine, yeah.
Yeah? When it comes to the opponents tomorrow, you said it's an easy 3-0. Why are you so confident knowing that you've played really, really close games against both of these teams?
Just because it's in an offline arena, and I know I'm just going to stomp them. And honestly, it's kind of time for us to win. We haven't won in a long time, and I believe in us.
Do you think your mid laner is a bit cocky? Do you think your mid laner is a bit cocky?
Yeah.
Is that okay?
I think he's not okay.
He's not. He's not okay. Who knows? Nobody hears anyone. I don't care. Thank you so much. Good luck tomorrow. They are very, very confident. We are going to kick it over to a quick break, and we'll be right back with game number 2. Oh, casters, it's now.
Thank you.
Sorry, what was that, Sjokz? We couldn't hear you.
Yeah, I don't know. Did you get that?
No, I was. Welcome back to the Casters. We are moments away from game 2. I don't know if we're going to see Gwen again.
I mean, I hope not. I'm going to be honest. Like, I think that the truth is, in an environment like this, even if you are very experienced like this G2 roster, I think you need to keep it simple. And that is exactly what I think MDK did. On top of the fact that they played very well, I think their composition and their order of execution was very straightforward. Maokai, Corki.
Wow.
How long does it take G2 to learn? Like, they against BDS, they did the same thing. They said they had answers for it. They had ways to deal with it. Game 1, they dropped to BDS. Game 2, they dropped to it again. It wasn't until Game 3 that they finally were able to change the circumstances of the series.
But look, it was only game 1. They tried something that didn't work, so now they banned the Maokai immediately coming into game number 2. That's going to be taken away, so we'll have to see how that adaptation is going to start to fit through in the rest of the draft, as now the Tristana are going to be banned on the opposite side.
Now, the Braum and the Poppy were the 2 bans that we saw in game 1. We'll see if that trend continues, because obviously something needs to go. Tristana and Azir, Madline sticking to the similar trend, given that their priority is likely going to be the Corki. Wouldn't be surprised to see the Smolder banned away once more.
A complete shift in the ban strategy of G2 outside of that buy remaining. Madline's boys still taking their time debating. Could be the Smolder to come through, obviously popular in multiple positions across the world on this patch.
I'm also curious if that adaptation that we see from G2 is Misfortune for Ashe. Supa had a great game on the Misfortune. It felt like G2 didn't really know how to crack open the MF either, so maybe we get that first rotation here.
Zyra now going to be the final ban, limiting
The
AP
Corki
pool.
first ban.
And look, this is the solo queue classic. It beats you, clearly it's broken, you pick it up. In this case, they might have been able to learn that a little sooner in the series, but I respect trying to beat the Corki. And now the Smolder, the debate, a flex pick for Mad Lions boy.
Just briefly, BB was selecting skins for Corki. So I don't know, I'm just putting it out there. That is what I saw happen, but we'll see. Is the Smolder going to be taken on the opposite side? And I imagine we'll get a jungler here. Is it going to be the Amumu again for Elyoya, though? No, Ivern makes a lot of sense.
Ivern does make a lot of sense, especially when it is very good into the Sejuani. If you're looking for a safe blind, then Sejuani is often the go-to, but with Zyroband as well, they're really trying to push Yike towards that brand. And, I mean, you can say what you want, like, I think Mad Lions Koi read G2 pretty well. They anticipated, hey, if you're going to first pick the Corki, we want to leave the Smolder open so that we can actually pick it into it. We also want to leave the flexibility open that we can play it topside too. And honestly, we don't care if you pick Ashe because we still have our MF, which they can just look to lock in right now. MDK, they are reading G2 very well and they're getting everything that they want.
Certainly are, and it feels like a very similar situation to game one, at least in terms of what Mad Lions Koi are bringing to the table. They have solid scaling, now paired with that same reliable MF and the Ivern for a bit more utility. The difference is on the side of G2 Esports, a more powerful champion in the mid lane early on, alongside Yike on this brand who, look, Gwen was cool, it had a few moments, but the brand damage, easy peasy.
But it's not as easy peasy as you expect, because a lot of the times when you want to see the brand, it's, hey, teams are jumping into me, I can then ult onto the engage tool, the rest of the team is going to follow up, and suddenly that ultimate starts to pop across several people. But if you have to play through a bullet time, through the Smolder ultimate, into a Daisy, that becomes a little bit more difficult now to try and operate in that form. So I think for G2, they may have to pivot their draft a little bit, go for these heavy engage tools, which is not what I was expecting to see Mad Lions Koi go for more of the disengaged champions. I think you have to go for someone like an Alistair or maybe even a Leona and try and get an Ornn or even for Broken Blade in that top side.
And Mad Lions Koi clearly respecting the champions that kind of disrupt what an MF will bring to the table with the hostile takeover or the unbreakable from the Braum. More bot lane bans coming from G2 as well as Nautilus is taken away, but the Leona can now be locked in. Mickey, does he just want to go for something like a Poppy? Really only would be affecting the Ivern Q as well as the Leona dash in.
I think you have to go for Alistair. It's decent in the Leona. You can try and set up for some of these plays, but if you don't have engaged, like MFO being able to open up on you, Smolder not really being under any threat, K'Sante now picked as well, I think you need some sort of engage here.
And remember that Supa was scary in a game with a Gwen and a Yasuo wind wall on this Misfortune, and now G2 do not have those tools. But they do have a bit more proactive engage. Rakan, obviously much more rapid, much longer reach when it comes those quick fire engages, and a bit more stability from Broken Blade in the top lane as we go later. Renekton obviously a reliable pick, but the K'Sante late game, the potential to take one of these 80 carries out of a fight completely should have paid off for G2.
This works out really well.
Here we are.
So I actually love this. So one of the things that we were just highlighting was, hey, if you can play from range, you get a ton of damage. And a combo that I've really started to like that we've seen over in LCK and LPL is Smolder Ezreal, because you get this strong ultimate combo that you can look to pair, chunk out a backline before the fight even starts. And then you add an MF in over the top of that as well to already blinking health bars. Mad Lions Koi have a devastating team fight that you can set up for and a ton of poke.
And it's super frustrating to play a champion like Ashe who's immobile. When you get slowed down and there's a Daisy chasing you or an Ivern trying to run you down, it's so hard to get space in those team fights to do what you need to do to hit those priority targets.
I don't know if G2 have enough engage to deal with triple AD carry with an Ivern.
I agree.
I love the fact that they kept the Smolder as a flex pick. I was thinking about it in the back of my mind, and in the event that you blind pick a tank, they were always going to do it. That's why I made the comment about the Nidalee. I thought they were going to keep the Smolder mid and put something like that up top, but they were saying, you know what, no, Smolder has been shown across the world to be an effective answer to the K'Sante. Not that you win the matchup, but just so you get free stacks. K'Sante can't kill you ever. So you're just chilling, you're farming. The same's going to be in the mid lane. It's a farm matchup on the bot side of the map. You expect that Ashe MF, that back and forth concentrate that we've seen so many times before. But the constant team fight threat that MDK is going to have, and the range, man. Range has been such a big point in this current meta that I think MDK have so much of it. If they keep this patient playstyle, if they have a similar laning phase to the previous one, I think MDK is looking to go 2-0 up in this series.
Setting themselves up for success in the draft. Triple 80 carry composition once again, leveraging the flexibility of Myrwn and G2. Simplifying a bit, but lacking that reliable engage that is so often the core component of strong team comps here in the LEC. A lot of pressure on Mikyx specifically in this game. He's had heroic Rakan performances in the past, an iconic champion in our region to be sure, in any of our top supports' hands. But for Mikyx as the sole reliable source, that much more on him to make sure they find those angles to fight.
at least the saving grace for G2 is that if MDK does fall behind in the early stages, you do have a fairly solid opportunity to take this game, because a triple AD carry comp with very little front line is going to be able to get mowed down, and you can try and play from vision to look for picks and punish the fact that someone on MDK has to face check to try and get that vision back. But if you fall behind at all, as Vedi was already saying, this is not going to be a fun time at all for G2.
I mean, it's a double-edged sword, right, where you sit there and go, wow, 3 AD carries, great scaling, great ability to play those team fights, good zone control. And you're like, yeah, cool. But if K'Sante gets 2 items before your AD carries have any damage, he will walk at them menacingly. And he's got Ghost, so he's going to be walking furiously fast. So you're completely right, Dagda. This early game, I think, is going to be really important. And it was something that G2 weren't able to really find much success with in game 1. We didn't really see much impact from Yike. We'll see if he can have a better performance on the brand, or at the very least look for trying for some early plays.
Again, though, a situation where, while the Seer combo with Brand for the stun is a bit more CC than the Gwen could provide, isn't that same reliable engage you see from someone like a Maokai, a Sejuani, even an Ivern to a certain degree. Fresskowy getting a quick level 2 here in the mid lane. Caps and him battling it out once again. And this time around, bot lane a bit more contested. No Alistar to be seen, so neither side completely having to concede level 1, but Hansama just continuing to make good use of the volley.
Yeah, it's the range advantage that Hansama has that makes it very difficult to try and play. So we're going to see him take a step back as Fresskowy takes a lot of damage here.
But Cap's uncertain if he wins this now. Rising spell torch from Fresskowy giving him so much work. Flash forward,
MVP just got solo killed by Fresskowy. Great awareness of the damage on the Ezreal. Connects to W, lands the auto, and Caps finds himself giving away first blood.
And I think that's what caught Caps off guard. Usually you see the E taken by Fresskowy in this sort of position, but instead he knows he's got the finishing blow, so takes the Essence Flux, flashes forward to secure the auto, and ends up winning out on the fight spectacularly.
And again, Fresskowy against the MVP. This is a guy who, when we came into Season Finals, when he came into Summer Playoffs, we talked about the solo laners as a weak point for MDK. But in Season Finals, he's been a monster. Now solo killing Caps in Game 2 when they're already up 1-0. An impressive start to the series.
I mean, remember that people often look at Caps as the heart of G2. The father of Europe, as he has earned himself so many titles over the years. The man that, if you want to win, you have to go through him. In Game 2, to get that kind of solo kill, to punish his mistake, has to do wonders for the confidence of MDK, but also raise more questions for G2.
Also might do wonders for the bank accounts of G2 as well, if you can get Elyoya into position, because you can already see he's taking that top scuttle, starting to lean in towards this mid lane, knows there's no flash. Can he try and punish? Caps playing very far back, not wanting to find any sort of tree in his lane.
Oh, Alvaro spotted on vision. Caps knows what's coming. He realizes the position he's in. Mikyx and Yike on their way as well. The cavalry has arrived.
Caps rooted, but he goes back into the waiting arms of his support. A bit more time, a Gleaming Quill just to heal up. And the play gonna fizzle. Supa here first as well. MDK with a man advantage, but Hansama rushing that wave forward as quick as he can.
Caps is still losing out though, because look at where the wave has been positioned. It's frozen against them, so unless he's able to step up and actually clear it, it's just Fresskowy who's getting time to get that experience lead for himself, and also just get, well, at least start growing that farm lead as well.
Level 5, ticking over. Caps just trying to get as much information as he can, try to be useful. So wave will finally bounce back. Fresskowy, an impressive start, getting the tier essentially for free, courtesy of that first blood, just makes his life so easy in this 1v1 matchup.
Elyoya setting his sights on the bot lane now. Given that MDK do have the push, Hansama looking to show that respect, so they're going to catch this wave underneath the tower. Elyoya just doing what you can do on Ivern. You got a lot of free time. Should be able to steal this one away.
Yike spots him, but Elyoya has the smite. Good damage now coming in from the Blaze passive. Red buff as well. He's getting slowed up, but Caps is not going to be able to join. Fresskowy taking his time.
Elyoya just able to walk out, but we're kind of seeing more traditional Mad Lions Koi in this game, where it's trying to get out on the map early, make these early plays happen. But hot side.
Level 4 there for G2. Hungry for a little bit more. Knockup is good. Alvaro now turning it back. Has so much resistance. It's courtesy of the Aftershock, courtesy of the Eclipse, but he's still getting burned down. One more auto on to do it. Hansama going in. Hansama flashing back safety, but Supa does not hesitate. Instantly blazing forward with the guns. Mikyx trying to body block as best he can. The shield coming in. The battle dance. The knockup, but it is not
enough. And now it's Mikyx who's been caught out. Mikyx who's in trouble because the trigger seed is there. And Mikyx, he's probably going to be triggered after that one. Double kill for the bot lane of MDK. Now the response, and Fresskowy will fall.
G2 needed something and they're able to get it back in the mid lane, but bot side again, it is MDK shooting out to these early leads. 2-0 for Supa on the Misfortune, and we just saw what happens when he gets these leads.
Hans and Mikyx were in a great spot because look at the farm that it started to develop. Supa was losing a lot trying to work with his team, roaming up through the river and being there to create those 4v3 skirmishes in mid, but Hans continued to focus on the farm. They had that slight level advantage, but then they overcommit. They turn their attention onto Alvaro, and because he's Leona, presses that W, tanks up all the damage, and Supa knows if you overcommit to this, I can turn this play around. Great confidence, great awareness from Supa.
And we heard about this when we had Dylan on the podcast. G2 players struggle to just lose gracefully. They can't just chill with a small lead. They have to play for every inch they can possibly get, and there, it comes back to bite them. Myrwn now level 7. Happy to just keep farming as best he can. 56 stacks already on the top side of the map.
The thing is, though, we said that G2 needed to get these early leads. The person that needed to be was Mikyx, because Mikyx has been the forefront of trying to roam towards mid, set up these plays. But the fact that now you've got your bot lane set behind will make it more difficult for Mikyx to really open up on the map with the level lead for Alvaro. And now Elyoya sneaking his way in onto this bottom side as well. I think he's just here to support Supa. I don't think BB will go aggressive.
Yeah, that early chain vest is probably going to stop any potential kill pressure. Unless he wants to just walk all the way up the lane, but Myrwn now locked up. On time of decent damage, but only level 5, and Alvaro there. He's covered just in case the dive comes through. Yike waiting in the darkness, level 6. They want to crash this wave. Do they still want to go for this once they see Alvaro? Mikyx potentially caught out. Luxury of the battle dance to lead back if needed.
Tense moment as both in top lane and bot lane, junglers hover their AD carries. Caps though, looking for the 1v1 again. Nice sidestep on the Q, has the level advantage. Means that he's able to get the better. I mean, you look at that mid play, that play from Yike, we didn't really talk about it, Dagda highlighted it earlier, but being able to get something back for G2 was massive for the mid lane matchup specifically, especially given that Fresskowy started to build that lead up. It's definitely alleviated a lot of the pressure, and now Cap's been able to equalize and neutralize this mid lane.
See if Yike can step up to the plate with the lead that he has built for himself. Will be crucial in the next couple of fights. G2 setting up some vision on the bottom side of the map as Supa repositions on the top side. Might just be a trade of objectives. G2 got the first scrub spawn, and MDK leveraging the power of the Ezreal to get that wave pushed in.
It feels like at the moment they just want to try and get Supa out of the matchup versus Hansama. The range is crippling him a little bit. Engage though.
Locked up, rooted, chain CC, Daisy on the way in, arrow there, Yike is there, Daisy hand delivering the pyroclasm to MDK. But the damage not enough to finish the job. Is that cupcake? Big pain in the ass for G2, but it's not taking anybody down.
I thought that was going to be really bad, expecting Mikyx to actually body block the initial play for Caps, but he says, you know what, I've still got the W available. G2 support staff, we're going to come in, provide that utility to turn the play around. Ends up just being a flash burn from Alvaro, the Ignite as well. No one ends up losing their life.
And nobody able to move over towards the Dragon either. You can see both Supa shifted down and Myrwn shifted up to cover any sort of play from G2 there. So now you got Fresskowy TP into the top side. It's Supa who's now manning the mid lane, but without full support from MDK, it looks like G2 should be able to take this Dragon away.
I will say game 1, Mad Lions Corki put a huge priority on cross-mapping these neutral objectives as Broken Blades found the flank.
Broken Blade off to the side, knockback is there. Supa, dead man walking, doesn't even need the ultimate. The angle for Broken Blade is good. Top father becoming the mid father there for a brief moment as G2 forced to retreat in the bottom lane.
You can definitely feel the shift in G2 from game 1 to game 2. There's no 14-minute first blood this time around. Sure, there was a misplay from Caps in the mid lane, an overextension from bot, but this team is the one being proactive on the map. It's Broken Blades roam into mid. It's Yike looking for the dive in mid. They're responding to the plays from MDK, and they're being rewarded for it. Dragon secured 3 grubs. They can now swap to top side if they want to set up for the next grub spawn in 7 seconds.
But it's not only just a feeling, it's you can see it visually on the map. If you look at the vision that we were talking about in the last game, it was everywhere littered for MDK. This time, it's been shut down by G2. They're controlling River. They're denying Elyoya access to these vulnerable points on the map. And now with the Void Grubs up, as Vedi was alluding to, Brand, top side, taking those, and you've still got a good amount of control on this bottom side to deny any sort of cross map from MDK.
G2's draft giving them more reliable tools, the Brand and the Corki. But Mikyx now locked up. And now Alvaro potentially out of position. Myrwn waiting over the wall. Decent damage coming in from the Smolder. In the meantime, Yike, 6 grub buff for this team. Strong to have early on, especially for Broken Blade, who does not care about physical damage at this point in the game.
Look at the cross map though. We're seeing Corki move up for caps on the top side. They want to try and push Fresskowy off, and you can't really get much on the bottom side for MDK, as that wave was pushed away by Hansam and Mikyx. So G2 going to leverage that 6 grub buff immediately onto this top side.
I mean, G2 are just playing around their early game lane power much better than MDK are right now. The reality is 380 carries. It's a class that scales with items. And a lot of these champions, they only need the one to really get ready to go. Cassante is an example of that, who says, oh, I'm happy to fight right now. If you are Ezreal, if you want to go toe-to-toe, I'll take you on. He's looking to secure this tower. Oh, he should be able to get it.
Sticking around.
First tower secured, 725 gold for Broken Blade.
And this is an incredible gold lead. Yes, it's 3-3, the kill score, but every objective has gone to G2 thus far. And it's a difficult position for MDK. These 80 carries need more time. They need more items before they can reliably fight.
But this is when G2 are at the most threatening, when they have these early leads, when they can try and play out through their side lanes. And you can already see they're trying to set up again, off for another play. You've got 2.5 minutes to Dragon. Well, let's see if we can get control on bot side using Hansama on this Ashe. Set up vision. You then can play for potential push on bot. You can play for an invade onto respawning camps for Elyoya. Even look for that tier 2 in the mid lane, especially as MDK overloading this bottom side may just open up for that push in the mid lane.
G2 pulling back in bot lane, but their vision control is so diligent. So easy now for Caps to just walk into enemy jungle. Broken Blade beside him, Mikyx beside him. A very different team from game 1. MDK have their resources in the right spot to contest, but with the back coming through, Myrwn's going to need to burn the TP if he wants to get involved. Mikyx going forward, but will not connect. But a bit of footwork from Broken Blade to get a bit closer, and Elyoya happy to be playing the Ivern at that particular moment.
MDK look a little uncertain as to where they want to try and commit. Myrwn walked top, said forget it, I'm walking bot, now TP into the top lane. MDK a little bit nervous about how many members of G2 are on this bottom side. They could just concede the tower and look for top instead, but they want to fight.
Broken Blade frontlining as best as he can. No wind wall this time to block the ulti though. Hansama, quick cleanse to make it out. Broken Blade locked up by the Daisy briefly. Supa continuing to auto. The wave disrupted, and in the meantime, Myrwn already in the top lane. He TP'd up there to try to get an objective back, knowing his team could hold the line bot lane.
Look at top, look at top. TP being used from Broken Blade to set up a flank on to Myrwn. I thought the Corki would also look to collapse.
Split fight. Myrwn running. As the flap will be fine now. The 3v3 in the bottom lane.
But it won't be for long. Looking for Fresskowy.
Locked up. Ulti coming in for Mikyx now. Going back on Sama and Yike. Quick to lay down the damage. Fresskowy coming.
I will say, I think the biggest difference from game 1 is the amount of damage that Yike's offering at this point in the game. This Brand shows up, and if you're CC'd, he's going to pop you. Nearly 3k the gold lead now for G2. A lot of that sitting on Broken Blade, but look at the difference starting to develop for this Brand as well. Yike definitely making his presence known here in game 2.
G2 as a whole just controlling every step that MDK take. They had the reset come through from Broken Blade early to 5-man onto bottom side, get all these big ultimates out from MDK, and then force their way onto the tower as well. So for G2, they are very aware of what their limits are right now, and Myrwn wants to try and get a little bit groovy with Caps, but going to be forced away. But still, G2, you've got options now. Dragon, just in a couple of seconds, and they're starting to get control over the mid lane once more.
Crucial to remember, though, that MDK are playing a triple AD carry comp with Ivern. And just a comp like that, you can never afford to underestimate. The scaling is always going to be scary. Myrwn at 130 stacks. MDK have options. It's just about picking the right fights, taking the right moments, looking to trade where you can. G2 being smart right now, pressuring through mid, but also pressuring through top, not allowing Myrwn to cross-map anywhere.
Specifically with Caps, who has the TP advantage. Myrwn teleported top, so you don't have the luxury of coming down into this fight. So with that push in mid, G2 get to fall back to Dragon. And honestly, you can just rinse and repeat here if you want to and look for Rift Herald afterwards.
Well, I think that they turn their attention to the bot tower. Maybe you're right, maybe the Herald is the greater priority, especially given that Caps has pushed that lane all the way out. There's a lot of options, given that Broken Blade has his sights on the bot tower. He could be saying, guys, I can take this by myself. We don't really need to make some sort of crazy play for this. There it is, objective secured. And there's that top vision being invested, just as Dagda talked about.
6 grub buff paying off. Their side lane threat so much bigger, so much harder for MDK to make those cross maps. And now G2 a little bit against tempo, right? Many teams would reset here, starting this objective. MDK can get involved, but they're not confident enough to walk into that pocket board. They don't have mid-prio to walk in safely.
I think MDK thought they were going top, but now they might just take Hansama.
Hansama slow is there, Root is there, no more cleanse because of the previous fight. One quick dead Ashe in the mid lane. Broken Blade follow up there, Daisy, third auto not going to hit, but the grub, the Herald down for G2, the objective they were looking for.
Surprised to see Hans not flash that. I guess he wanted to save it. He gives away a kill to Supa, who's continuing to get very strong. Ultimately, you could argue inconsequential, given that G2 still secured the Herald, but your point about tempo earlier, Drakos, it's fascinating because MDK's reset meant that they immediately had to catch waves. G2 overstaying after the Dragon meant that they pushed in mid and top was still pushed in. So even though MDK was able to reset and come back out onto the map, they kind of had to fix the map, giving that window for G2 to actually secure the Herald. So just good awareness, and also arguably MDK needed to push those waves out before actually going into the reset.
And this is the problem with having all that pressure on side lane, the free pressure of having those towers knocked down. It only gets harder, and Caps himself, of course, incredible side laner. One of his big strengths for this team is he just has the ability to build a gold lead out of nowhere. On a lane like top lane is Myrwn. Careful to face check that brush.
And that's why we see so often G2 giving him this Rift Herald. It gives him not only the big threat of being like, hey, if you step away from this lane, I can take a tower, but also give him the safety we've seen time and time again to escape if MDK overextend onto the top side to try and pick him off, and suddenly you can take a mid tower, suddenly you can take a bot tower. But Caps might need to be careful here as MDK are coming through.
Running away, Yike zoning with that pillar of flame, but you can see Myrwn already. He needs a bit of time to do damage, but the poke with the sneeze coming through as the wave instantly cleared by Hansama. Bit of poke onto Supa, does not want to drop that tier 1 mid.
Void grubs are going to come through though. This is the 6th Void grub like we saw in the last game. It is so powerful in these moments. Just one minion survives and G2 are able to take the mid tower, and now they get to establish that vision once more on top end, leaning towards Caps and just keeping pressure continuously onto MDK.
It's a tricky point in the game now for G2. It's hard to extend gold leads from this position. MDK trying to hold on, trying to farm up as best they can. 172 stacks for Myrwn. No Baron yet really for G2 to threaten. No objective on the map for another 2 minutes. Baron could go for a 20 angle, but they don't have the most immediate threat.
I mean, you're completely right, Drakos. The game plan moving forward now definitely becomes harder. This is where the Rift Herald becomes valuable. Whether they use it on a side, it's kind of what my expectation is. Maybe commit it top, maybe they hold on to it for a little bit longer to use it to gain mid control ahead of the Dragon. But given that there is no mid tower to stop them, I feel like G2 aren't too concerned about it. MDK kind of overstacking on one side of the map, hoping to find a pick. They hover around bot lane, also providing the safety for Fresskowy to push out this wave. But again, look at Caps. Top lane, he finds himself with a full level lead over Fresskowy, and he's going to continue to push in the top.
And he knows he had at least 20 seconds free to push out that wave because he spotted 3 members on the bottom side of the map. All 3 members from MDK walking over that single piece of vision in the tri-brush, limiting the threat of any potential fast play.
And MDK know they have to try and make this sort of pick play. They go on towards bottom side. Now they look at Caps on the top side, but that's half a health bar gone on Myrwn, and he's not really getting any help from Elyoya. They're looking at mid lane instead. But again, just vision for G2, spotting out where these members of MDK are.
And I gotta say, a bit of a bold call from Myrwn. He E'd forward there, ready for a fight, with no jungler nearby. Caps just believed the bluff and walked away.
They're just denying jungle camps as much as they can. Yike chipping away at this bot tower with Broken Blade once again. Grubs. Broken Blade's damage on the tower. Another objective secured. I mean, we thought it was going to be hard. This looks damn easy for G2. Pressure into control, into objective. They make it look clean, they make it look easy. And it feels like that at this point, like I was optimistic about this triple AD carry threat from MDK, but it's not about team fights. It's not about skirmishes. It's just about G2 using their pressure around the map, and MDK don't have an answer.
But this is what we said from the get-go. If you fall behind on this AD carry comp, it is so difficult to come back from. You cannot face check into this vision from G2. You cannot walk easily towards side lanes to cover from them. And G2 are just bullying out MDK. That's why so often you see Elyoya away from where the action is. He's just trying to catch a member of G2 that maybe he's overextended so they can get that tempo back in their favor and try and play their game instead of marching to the beat of G2 drums.
Midwave in an even state, G2 battling MDK for vision right now, but you're so right, both of you, right? The problem with all these champions is they all desperately want money. And so many comeback games, it's the story of a mid lane or an AD carry farming on side, getting that disproportionate amount of income. But if any of these three champions don't have income, they're completely useless. Mikyx now going into Myrwn. Elyoya there to cover. Can't afford to stick around too long, but it's actually Alvaro who's overstayed. Quick flash out to get away. Mom called in. Hansama backstep on the solar flare. Crucial as G2 now backing out.
But these champions in Mad Lions Koi also want these big objective fights. You want ult after ult after ult from these AD carries to try and set up fights, but G2 are never giving them that moment. Even there, they look for a pick onto Alvaro. We got a flash, we got this opportunity to maybe look for a fight. No, we're going to back up. We're playing it slow. We're not giving Mad Lions Koi that one big ultimate fight that they can maybe look for. Instead, we're going to take our fights, these picks, when we can have our opportunity.
Mana Spike has now come through for Caps as Broken Blade just goes for a bit of a dance with Alvaro. Going to lose that control ward, but again, we see it. We've seen it this whole game. Pressure into shift, into control, into objective. The pressure comes in mid. Bot is also being caught by Caps. They shift that pressure over towards the bot side of MDK's jungle. You kind of look at the vision on your screen and you can see MDK don't see anything. And what does that mean? Objective secured. This Baron, maybe there's a way in which MDK can rush it, but they know that it would be too risky given how quickly the Dragon has fallen. Instead, they'll clear out the vision that G2 has set up. And now G2 has set their sights on Fresskowy.
Fresskowy should be fine here. The thing is, even if you make it past the Baron, even if you weather that storm, you cannot give G2 Cloud Soul. If your triple AD comp struggled to kill K'Sante before, when he has all that extra move speed, it's not going to get any easier. The same is true for Mikyx on these engages. We were wondering, hey, is it going to be enough to have this sole source of proactive engage? But it hasn't been a close game. It hasn't been a game where it's come down to a single moment from Mikyx. It's been the raw burst damage that Yike has brought to the table, and just clean map play overall that has defined this for G2.
Especially when this was a game that started out looking so good for MDK, now struggling. Mikyx caught though.
Being locked up, Celestial opposition procced, has a bit more health. Leaping back for a bit of Gleaming Quill health. Flips there. Hansama heal for movement speed from Mikyx big as Hansama takes a bit of a chunk, but traded for the ulti.
Just try to force back G2, even if they don't get a kill, they need to work on side lanes. You see Fresskowy going down to collect that bottom wave. Myrwn trying to push in on this top side, get some sort of objective bounty, but G2 not taken low enough. And now they will establish themselves once more as MDK.
Fractured ward, Alvaro caught out, easy chase down for a Broken Blade, courtesy of the Iceborne Gauntlet. Pullback is there as well. Elyoya has to be careful about overcommitting, but Myrwn over the wall, calling in Mom. It might be enough. Hansama out of position. Hansama still standing, crucially. Elyoya not running a Caps, more than happy to shred through that life bar as Yike grabs the double.
I mean, G2 just run at them. MDK don't have an answer. They don't have a way to stop the charging G2. They turn their attention to the Baron with no smite available on Elyoya. It's down to the 380 carries to turn this fight around.
With no vision in the pit, 2K getting lower. Supa can't even get close. Cap taking a bit of a chunk of damage. Baron down. MDK falling to pieces. Mikyx finding the knock up. Another 80 carry falling. One more remaining as Myrwn retreats. 251 stacks, not enough to make the difference.
It's a double kill, it's a Baron, it's a double kill for Yike. And Myrwn may be sandwiched in the middle of that as well, as he's going to just barely escape. But I don't think there's anywhere for him to go.
Mom not here to save him, but the TP is. Caps on the way in.
The Krogs!
The Krogs get Myrwn to safety. It costs him his TP. But at the very least, he lives. We turn our attention back to the play. And again, look, Broken Blade just walks at them. They're investing so much into Alvaro, the front line of MDK. But what can they do? Through the shield, through the aftershock, the ultimate comes down, but the positioning of Myrwn and Supa just isn't there. Fresskowy isn't in a position to fight back. And G2, they just catch MDK unawares with no options, and now the Baron is secured.
And there's so many times you see these Ivern compositions where they absorb that initial engage and the turn is so powerful, but MDK just aren't strong enough. Mom call, trying to clear the wave, trying to zone G2 away. Bot wave needs an answer, but because no one is on it, MDK just happy, maybe not happy, but have to concede that gold, concede that money, let it be deleted to the tower as Supa does what he can to catch mid. Broken Blade walking up, getting lower though, a bit of a misstep, still unstoppable for a brief moment. Solar Flare connecting, ulti, still not enough. The Smolder execute, fading away in the final moments.
MDK, though, used everything to make that play happen, and now they've got a tower that's left limping like they are in this top side. Broken Blade doesn't go down, but G2 should be able to take the tower.
The chance for the top father as he walks away with his life. He returns back out onto the map, looking to push down mid. 1 minute till the Dragon's Soul.
Mikyx overconfident, instantly locked up. Supa now trying to follow the flash over the wall into Hansama. Supa again! The cleanse, Yike backing up, recognizing that is not his moment to turn that fight.
Mikyx didn't see Elyoya over the wall, thought maybe it was a pick onto Alvaro, but the cavalry was there. And MDK, they get something back in the G2. The remnants of their Baron will fade, but MDK are still stuck in the base.
It's nice to get something back for MDK, but it is but a molehill compared to the mountain of a gold deficit that they find themselves in. Myrwn gonna go back, spend what money he can. Broken Blades.
Knock back on a Broken Blade, footwork back to the minions to keep him safe. Supa slowly working his way through that health bar, but now Yike is here. They cannot afford to group up. Myrwn running from caps on the side.
This is 3v5.
Cassante living his best life, but again, it's Mikyx who's locked up, and Alvaro quickly finds himself in no man's land.
Broken Blade looks at MDK and reminds them who is running from who. He brings Alvaro back into Yike. They find another kill. And now the Dragon is easy pickings. Soul likely for G2.
Broken Blade can walk at you menacingly, strut at you menacingly, stand there menacingly, it turns out as well, and you cannot kill him.
He's just a menace.
It's just a menace all around. And G2, they are cruising in this game.
I mean, I have to apologize because after the draft, I looked at this composition from MDK and I thought the range would be too much to handle. I thought that the scaling was going to be too strong. And I thought that G2 wouldn't ever really be able to close the gap, but this game hasn't been about the team fights. It's not been about the 2v2s or the 3v3s. It's been about map pressure, objective control, vision control, and G2 have just played better, and they've leveraged their early pressure so much better than MDK.
They certainly have. And for MDK, finding themselves in that hole with this composition, it's put them in dire straits now. 10K gold lead for G2, the Soul, 6 grubs, the list of advantages they have goes on and on. And the struggle is, yes, Supa got that pick earlier on, but he is cleanseless, he is flashless, he is so vulnerable in the fights to come. Him having 3 items is fantastic. And him not having flash is a liability.
And we know that Yike is a confidence-based player. I mean, 7-0-0. Like, you can sit there and say, well, he just showed up to grab the kills, but man, the damage that he's brought this game, especially after the Gwen performance in Game 1, has got to be filling him with confidence, setting themselves up nicely, assuming they can round this out as we get ready for Game 3.
So much of our top 3 teams' performance is about that mental game. And for Yike to turn around that disastrous Game 1 is big for momentum in this series. Broken Blade continues to step up. Myrwn very steadily becoming a problem, but G2 still a ton of advantages here. Still favored in the fights. MDK staying grouped up, hoping to find the 5v5. The battle lines are drawn, but information in favor of G2 right now. Mikyx hoping to find the engage. Movement speed steroid coming in from the ulti. The Cloud Soul there to back him up. Doing a hell of a lot more than Smolder's mom as Broken Blade just continues to walk forward menacingly while the rest of his team finds the kills they need. Broken Blade going in unstoppable. One more in Tofu strike, looking for the setup. Supa locked up, not fast enough this time around. The knockback is there. Yike, legendary. Myrwn and Elyoya running for their lives. Knock up there, Myrwn trying to backstep, Myrwn trying to hold on, doing everything he can to keep them in this game. Elyoya walking away, but the Dragon just not tanky enough. Elyoya getting cut down. Hansama coming around the corner. G2 firing back in Game 2 to tie up the series.
MDK drew their battle lines, but didn't know they were standing in front of the execution squad. Shot down where they stood, and MDK are left gasping, hoping for more as G2 will take Game number 2.
A commanding and controlled game from G2. They will equalize the series, and they've brought us a very interesting one. From MDK's dominance and clean team fighting in Game 1 to just great lane control, pressure dominance, vision and objective setup. We've got an interesting series on our hands.
G2 rallying after that rough Game 1. MDK gonna look to do the same as we get closer to Game 3. We're gonna head to a quick break. When we return, Game 3 on the horizon.
Hey, Laure.
Yeah?
I need a bit of help with styling since I'm new here, and I was wondering if I could show you a couple of outfits.
Yeah, sure.
Amazing, thank you so much. I'll be right back. I'm a porro snack. Get it?
I don't know, man.
No, not really.
I don't know, Laure. It's hopeless.
No, it's gonna be fine. Here, let's have a break.
Even the biggest champ needs a break.
Yes, that's the one. Perfect.
Yeah? LEC, here we come. Ahoo!
Red Bull gives you wings.
Hey, shouldn't you be on stage right now?
Hey, you got a pick. Tom Kent? What? I was not expecting this.
And a crazy off-meta pick that secured you the win. How did you come up with it?
I just listened to my gut.